Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Toxin Tea with me, Tonya Nicole. As you're coming in, go ahead and say hello in the chats. Tell me you're here. We're going to have a very exciting time tonight. A great subject. I know you've seen the advertisement out there. We're going to be talking about what happens when the kids came first. And we're really going to get into this really good conversation. And I hope you engage with me. So say hello in the chats. Tell me what you're drinking. Tell me where you're from. And we're going to get started in 30 seconds. So stay tuned. This is one you don't want to miss. I'll see you in 30. All right, so what's up, everyone? I see you all coming in. Continue to say hello. Hello, Yolande. Hello, all of you all out there watching. So before I get started, as we were preparing today, or as I was preparing today, a very close family member of mine received some news about her mom and COVID. And so if you all wouldn't mind just whispering up a little prayer or well wishes in your individual homes, however you do that, for her and for the safe recovery of her mom. She just lost another family member and had another family member with COVID. As you all know, as I'm sure most of you all out there, there's a lot going on. And the pandemic is still very real and still very much alive and well. So if you're out there, whisper a prayer for her and for her mother and for her, just her healing and her recovery, that she can come back and just be doing well. I am excited today to talk about what happens when the kids came first. And I gave a little overview. When we come back, I'm going to tell you what tea I'm drinking. I'm going to play our intro right now, and then we're going to get started. Remember, say hello. I see you all on there coming in. It's going to be good. So what's up, everybody? You all are out there. Most of you know how this goes. It's me, Tonya Nicole, and this is Toxin Tea with me, Tonya Nicole. I have my tea here in my wonderful mug, and it says, I love you with all of your imperfections. It's spelled all wrong, and it's all crackly because it is so much a part of who I am. Definitely not perfect, but working every day just to get better and better. Share with me what you're drinking tonight. I am drinking an echinacea and elderberry tea. Added some honey. It's not bad, but I'm using it as a defense mechanism to help build up my immune system. So that's it. I have it going. I see some of you all coming on, giving me shout outs. Hello, Yolande. Hello, Danielle. Hello, Cameron. Hello, Luz. Great to see all of you all out there. As you're coming in, say hello and tell me what tea you're drinking. Tell me where you're from if I don't know you. I love it. Yolande's drinking water, and that's okay. I know some people take this moment at night to have a little beverage, but it's all good. So I started this out and I laid down the foundation. Hey, Monica Rogers, good to see you. I laid down the foundation of all of this, and it's a conversation that I've had. So let's get right into it. What happens when the kids come first? And this is engaging. So put it in the chat. communicate with me. I would love the questions. Let's communicate and let's get going. But I'm going to give you a moment of just kind of vulnerability so we can really get to the nitty gritty of this. So, one thing you can ask me about, one thing that I am very confident of, and that is that I am a good mom. Hands down, no questions asked. I mean, I don't care what you say. I know I'm a good mom. However, when it comes to this piece of taking it a step further, I was a single mom for 12 years before I got married. I was a single mom for 12 years, and of 3 children. So all of my 3 children were outside of marriage before I married. And when I was married, just a little something, I got married 6 years ago. We were separated. We were good flowing for about 2 years. We were separated for a couple of years, and we're back together now, really trying to work it out. So a lot of things have transpired over the years. And through that time, we saw numerous counselors. So we saw pastors, we saw couple counselors, we saw licensed counselors, we saw so many different counselors. And the challenge was how they could actually help our situation. And the reason why, and we went to marriage retreats, like all of these things. But the challenge is they kept the conversation, at least on my end, what I received is, well, a wife should put her husband first. You know, as the couple, you both should put each other first, and you should really work to that. And then the kids, they end up benefiting from that. And I understood that concept. So this is not an argument about that concept. I understood that concept. But the challenge was, what happens when the husband didn't come first? See, it's easier to say, put your husband first when your husband came first, or vice versa. Put your wife first when your wife came first. But what happens when your husband or your wife came after the kids? How do you then move or transition into that idea of really making that marriage work as to what works for you in finding that balance, and really pushing forward so that it is a cohesive family unit that really functions? I'd love your opinion. Share your opinions with me. So if you're in here, go ahead. Let's keep it live. So for me, it was never a question as to parenting. I realize, however, the way I respond in marriage and what my children see as it relates to me in marriage, it will affect them later in life. And so that has been one piece that I have really struggled with, because I want my children to have a good idea of a positive relationship, of a relationship that works well, and one where they feel valued and cherished. But it's difficult when that, what we see as traditional way of things should go, that they don't turn out how they should. And so you all have seen me on this, doing a live, doing the talks and tea, and you won't really see my husband on. And while we were separated, it was really hard trying to navigate where exactly we were. So it wasn't putting it all out there. Yeah, I'm putting it all out there now. And definitely didn't want to have that phoniness of representing something that we weren't. And I will tell you, even to this day, it's not perfect. But as I say often, the goal is not perfection for me. It is to do better, and it is to grow, and it is to build and see how we can do better. And for us, we've really worked at how do we make our situation work? So I know some of you parents are out there. I know there are some parents that have, even if you didn't have children before you married the first time, sometimes you've ended in divorce and you're looking for another relationship. And so the idea of putting someone before your children, it's a very difficult situation. As a mother, I I have a problem sometimes putting myself before my children, let alone putting another human that came after them. And there were some questions for me because my children were older. And I actually married my middle child's father. So that adds a whole nother dynamic to it. So for me, it wasn't even that I was marrying a stranger. But it still was, how do I maintain the promises, the trust, the camaraderie that I had with my children and still engage in this adult relationship and moving past it and making sure that I'm finding a way to reach that goal of what I see as the traditional putting husband first, putting wife first. Well, at the end of the day, I realized what works for some may not work for all. And I know for a lot of single parents out there, that is a lot of times the hesitation. And my husband and I have had some real talks because I know how to be a good mom. I know how to be a good single mom. And I even know how to take care of people. And so it was never an idea that he didn't feel taken care of. But it was still that idea of, how do I prioritize him and still stay true to the loyalties or stay true to what the goal is of our adult relationship and these children who are still growing, still developing, and will eventually be out of the house and it will just be the two of us. So it's interesting to see, what do you all think about that? What do you all think about where do you go and how does that look like in your situation? How many of you all out there have been in a situation or have heard from your friends, hey, this just isn't working, or my son says this, that, and the other, but really looking at that idea of what that looks like? One of the things that I've learned with this is there is a grieving process that your children actually go through, especially if they were raised by a single parent for most of their life. And so there is a grieving process that happens where they are still trying to find where they fit into their parents' life. Sharonita has something to share. She says, her 2 cents, being intentional regarding time or whatever your marriage needs, and there is no such thing as balance. Each entity will require more at different times, so giving it that then and maintaining the others. Right now, especially with virtual schools, the kids are requiring more, so I have to work hard to be intentional with the time with my husband. Energy management is key. And I love that answer, but I'm going to push back at you. Sounds good, but it sounds like you might have had your husband first. I don't know your situation. I don't know at all. And please clarify, I could be totally wrong, because there is a balance. However, and especially the amount of time that you were a single parent of your child, that makes a big difference as it relates to your interactions with your husband and your ability to kind of manage time. My youngest daughter, she said, yep, you are right. So yeah, it's a difference. It is a difference when you're married first, because that idea, it makes sense. And even for me, not having been married first, it does make sense for me. It makes sense to managing time. It makes sense to balancing things out and those conversations and engagement. But if you weren't married before you had children, if the children came first, it just puts a different dynamic and a different mindset in there, because you struggle with some of those loyalties at times. You struggle with some of those ideas of, now, how do I maintain this idea of no one comes before you? because, you know, the affirmations that you give to to your children, and maybe the thing is when your children are younger, give them balance. You know, give them that idea and that sense of that there can be other people that come into the life, but come into your life and come into their lives, but it doesn't change that love perspective. It's definitely a journey. It is definitely a journey. But for me, it was always hard. I mean, and we saw at least 6 counselors. We saw at least 6 counselors. And it was never a question of love. It wasn't a question of infidelity. It wasn't abuse. That's not this conversation. It is when you really have that intention and that mindset of I'm going into this and I want it to work and I'm coming all in, but how do I make it work? So some suggestions. Definitely going in with that open communication. You and your spouse, whether it's your husband, your wife, whoever it is, going in with that open communication, and that open communication in that you're really talking about everything. I grew up with, my mom was a single mom for many years of my life. She later, when I was a teenager, married my stepdad. My father eventually married my stepmom, and navigating that in that period as the child, and then as an adult, actually looking at it as well and working with other families, that step-parent dynamic is very different. Because as an aunt, as a best friend, I can come in and I can immediately like discipline and then give love. I can balance that out. I could do it with my nephew. I could do it with my cousins and my nephews easier than as a step parent. Because as a step parent, you don't have, you shouldn't come in immediately with the discipline. And I know it sounds totally crazy, but you have to come in with the love first. And you have to show and prove that love, especially depending on the age of that child and how much rejection or how much connection they have with that other parent. You coming in changes that mindset as to what they should be focusing on and what does loyalty look like and how do I navigate these feelings and these emotions? Why am I letting you in, or should I let you in? And so it definitely, as a step parent coming in, there is a different approach in which you have to do that. And so, sorry, I'm shaking this camera. And so with that, communication is the name of the game altogether. Tandrea's like, yes. And it's true because, and I don't just mean communication with the children, even though, yes, that is a vital part, you know, as a step parent, as the bonus parent, whatever you want to call it, coming in, that communication is important, but the parents have to communicate. The differences and understanding are creating what your values are or what your core boundaries are as parents. Because I have been in my children's life forever. You know, even back then it was me, single mom, I'm laying down the rules and everything else. And when they were younger, when I was a younger mom, I would take offense when someone would say, well, you're only saying that because of you and how you feel. And then I later came to the realization that, well, they've been raised by me. And so I laugh, but they have. And so the majority of what their mindset is or understanding or what's normal is what they've experienced because I've raised them. It doesn't take away from other experiences, but it is something that is definitely different. And so in order to transition that or to make that change or to grow into something, the parents, it's best if all the parents, but at least the parent that's there and the step parent that's coming in, they come together with a commonality of how is discipline, what is appropriate, what isn't appropriate, what are the bedtimes? What's the good conversation? What music do we listen to? Those are conversations you must have. I can guarantee you, sorry to all the step parents out there, but if you're out there and you're a step parent, I can guarantee you your child will challenge you. Hi, Brianna. I can guarantee that child will challenge you. A child's going to challenge their biological parent, their parent who's been there the whole time. Best believe a child is going to also challenge you as a step parent. And so, with that challenge, if you all, as the parents, are not on the same accord with how to move forward in that, that's just going to cause more conflict within yourself, within your relationship, within where you're going. And the sensitivity, and I will just speak for me, the sensitivity, Brianna says, yep, it sure will. And it can. For me, being just how I am 100%, anybody that knows me, if you've been on these lives, I am 100% for young people. I am 100% for my children. I'm team all children, my children. That's why I'm the universal mama bear. Like, that is what I stand for. And so to come and challenge that, and even if it's not intended to be a challenge, to come and challenge that, it does not make for a good relationship and interaction. Because Brianna was like, most definitely. And Valerie's like, yes, you are. But for most parents, having criticism or having feedback that is not always positive about how you're raising your children, especially when it's not delivered in a way that you're able to best receive it. To get that creates other challenges. For me, I struggled in a lot of areas in my life, but I knew I was a good mom. And I even said, like, for me and getting married, I married my husband for me, because I knew I was a good mom. And it wasn't a question of, oh, do I need somebody to raise my children? That was not the question. To me, it was more so, okay, I'm going to choose someone for me. And there are other parents out there that are typically choosing someone for them that they hope to spend a life with, grow with. Some want to have more children. Some don't want to have more children, and they want somebody for them. There are some people that marry because they do want somebody to stand in that role of the missing parental element. But that's another situation. And so we first talked about communication. The second thing is you have to figure out what your relationship is, and you have to separate what that looks like. And I wish somebody could have, and not that it wasn't, it just took longer for me to get here, because most people that I talked to did not experience having children before they were married. And so the advice that they gave me, it did not apply. I love Sharonita was like, yes, communication is the lifeblood of any relationship. And I love that, because I feel like there's definitely a beauty in getting information or getting advice for couples who married first, then had children, for couples who lasted many, many years. There's a lot of value in that. However, my friends, Valerie, actually, who's on here, she's like, chew the meat, spit out the bones. That means take all the good, take all that you can, and then leave what you can't. But for me, as I was trying to get my marriage to work, I just couldn't get past the idea of, how do I adjust, or how do I shift that so that my husband can feel valued, so that he can feel as though he is prioritized, so that he can feel those things that I am intending to do. But in the same breath, how do I also maintain that balance of being the mom that I want to be? being the mom that I know I am and being true to myself. And that was a hard place to get to. And so for me, it was really looking at and evaluating that. As I told you, we had to spend some time apart. And I don't think that that's everyone's answer. I don't think that at all. But there was value in it because we were able to reflect back on the pieces that weren't working for us. We were able to reflect back on, we do want to be together. It was never a matter of love. And so there were just differences in how we did things. Before you get married, even if you have children, if you don't have children, have that conversation about how you want to raise children. Have that conversation as to what discipline looks like and how that functions. I'm a Southern girl. I laugh at myself because I am traditional, but I'm very liberal as well. So not in politics, but in just life. I'm kind of traditional in a lot of things about myself, but I have a very open mind for a lot of things as well. And I say that because when it came to raising children, when it came to all of the different things that we talked about, we had different approaches to it. We had different ways that we communicated. We had different ways that we received information. And I know that wasn't a word, but it really changed the game because we did not hit that totally before we were married. We kind of jumped in the bliss of the kids love you, I love you, let's go make it work. When there were really some hard-hitting issues. If you're a parent out there and you're in a relationship, there are some hard-hitting issues that you must communicate with before you get married. And I'll go over some of them when I come back. Sharonita has a question. She says, have you all discovered each other's love languages and common points of interest and talked about major points of contention to come to a middle ground? And that's great that you asked that, because that definitely goes, I keep knocking this door, sorry, but that definitely goes with really some of the things that I'm talking about, right? In understanding how you give and how you receive information, and not so much just in love language, but even in the idea of communication, in the idea of how we're persuaded or how we're influenced, in order to really get to that point where we're receiving information how it is intended. And not, if you say, okay, so here's a good example. If I say, these kids, driving me crazy because they just won't keep their room clean and I'm tired of yelling about it, right? If I say that, my intentions are, hey, I'm just frustrated for the moment, right? And so it's received as, oh, she's frustrated, the kids aren't listening, possibly. Then if he on the other end says, oh, I'm frustrated, these kids aren't listening and they're not cleaning their room. It's not a matter of love language, but how I perceive that is, you're calling me a bad parent. Now, it may sound crazy and it may make you chuckle a little bit, but if you think about that, you've invested in your child for whatever many years, and then someone else comes in and they're working to co-parent, or they want to change and adjust some of the things that you do. Sometimes that information isn't always received as, hey, they're just giving suggestions, or they're just making a comment so that we can grow and get better. And it's sometimes received as, wait, they're saying I'm a bad parent. They're saying I didn't do it right. They're criticizing how I raise my children, or even, because I've heard this from other families, or even, oh, they don't like my children. Oh, they're against my child. So maybe let me look at this. And there's a fine balance with that, because guys, I have met some step parents that don't like their kids. at all. Don't claim them. Don't really include them in the family. Treat them really bad. All of that. So it is a real fear for parents who hesitate or have that resistance. However, there has to be a balance in finding that common ground. Okay, Sharonita. So that was about love languages. I think it's a little more than love languages because I think that give and receive is good. And but I think it's more so of the idea of what exactly you're talking about. And then your other question was common points of interest, major points of contention to come to a middle ground. And that's really why I suggest before you're married, or sometimes after you're married, sit down, plan out what is it that you want. What do you want the outcome to be? Because with my husband, like we try quite often, and it is a daily thing that you must do, because I'm going to talk a little bit more to that, but we try often to sit down and talk when we're not angry, when there's not an issue with the kids, when we're just in a good space, because that's the best time to create what those common values are and how those consequences will be rendered, or what the boundaries look like and what the discipline will be on the other side. It's best to do it when you are head over heels in love and jolly and peachy with one another, because then you're not going to later, when you enforce that rule or when he enforces that rule, you're not going to feel as though it is a personal attack on your parenting. As a step parent, however, there are those feelings of, and let me put this out there. I told y'all my husband is the father of one child, biologically. But don't tell him these other two aren't his, because he has showed up and showed out in these are all his children. And he loves them. There is no question in his mind that these are his children. He loves them as his children. He cares for them as his children, whatever. Okay, all of that. However, when it comes to step parents, and especially those who really have that love, that care, and the concern where they bring them in, number one, there can be a block. Because if that child has been hurt, especially from the void of the parent that you've kind of come into that place of, that means you're going to get hell. And I say that because it is going to be a test over and over to see whether or not you are going to leave or you're going to stay. I think I might have been a little bit like that. I'm just going to say I was an angel when I was a little girl. But no, and even when that parent is there, like if it's the parent who's not living with them, who has remarried, there is still that feeling of, I don't want to be replaced. And I know I gave my stepmom a hard time. Hazel, I love you. You are the best stepmama in the entire universe. But I gave her a hard time. I gave her a hard time because I already had some distance between myself and my father. And then he got married. So that means I was getting further pushed away. And so I gave her a really hard time for years. Like, I don't remember when we got good, but it took a really long time. And as a step parent, and I think she had just kind of an edge because she had a child already and she was just a warm and loving person. But can you imagine getting pushed away over and over, giving love? I remember her calling me her daughter, and I was like, no, I'm not. I'm her stepdaughter. And I just say this, I mean, I laugh at it now, but how hurtful can that be for a step parent to hear those things and to keep constantly getting pushed away? Because even though you're giving love, that can happen. Let's go. Angie says, it's interesting to hear it from your point of view. I think both point of views should be valued. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I have not been a step parent, so I cannot speak about And I've not been a husband either. Okay, I know I'm corny. But I've not been a step parent. I've not been a husband. So I can't speak from that end. I tried to get Chris to come on, but he keeps denying me. So I'm just going to keep tugging at him, and maybe he'll come on with me one day. And it's funny because if you know my husband, our approaches are very different. Like I think I give it to you very real, and very authentic. This is me. If you know me, this is me. Like, this is what you get. But a lot of people think that, oh, but you still give it very polished. My husband doesn't give it polished. Like, he gives it real as well, but it's real and raw. And so it's definitely a difference in all of that. Sharonita says, yep, that's critical. Latoria, thank you. She loves the honesty. And Stephen, exactly. But it's a difference between that. And this is one of those things that we need to have these conversations, because people are hurting. Like, families are hurting. It was so funny because when I was sitting here and I was trying to think about just really taking in and coming and approaching this new year of how I wanted to step into things, this topic has just been tugging at me. And it won't be the last time I have it, because there are so many families that are being created. And if you look at the divorce rate and, the rate and the amount of people that have children and they're not married, what that means is, somewhere along the line, if any of these people decide to get in another relationship, they're going to be in this predicament. And if the counselors and the preachers and everybody out there, if they're only saying, well, put your spouse first, well, this is how it should be done. If I didn't do it that way, that doesn't help. And there's perspective and there's value, for sure, 100%. I'm not taking away from that. But when you're trying to find somebody to support you, a coach, a counselor, a therapist, a preacher, whatever, when you're trying to find somebody to support you in this endeavor, you need sometimes somebody who's gone through it. And yeah, I took the long way. I took the real long way through it. But everybody, you don't have to take the long way through it. You can take a short approach if you're talking with somebody who's been there and done that. And working with the idea of, I want my marriage to work. Let's do something in the chat. If you're in the chat, just put in there, all of you all out there who want to not have your marriage work, put me in the chat. Yeah, nobody's going to put that. All of you in there who want your children to feel like they're second rate and they come after everybody else, put me in the chat. Yeah, nobody's going to put that. And I often say when I come on here, it's never a question of, oh, you don't love your children. Yes, the majority of people love their children. The majority of people want their marriages to work. But if we keep condemning people or shaming people because either they're doing it different or they're looking for help and they want something to help them with it, then nobody's going to ever get better, because we're not providing them opportunities to really grow from it. Being able to be in some of these chats on Facebook and these rooms, some of these clubhouse rooms, hearing all these interactions that people are having, it's a real need that people are having out there. You don't come out just knowing how to parent. It doesn't always come. And everybody doesn't have, wait, I'm laughing because Stephen says, I love my son sometimes. He's definitely kidding, but it's true. You don't just come out and it's like, oh, I'm a perfect parent. Now, there's some people who come with a maternal instinct and a paternal instinct and all of that, but it's not like clad 100%, I've got it, and everybody's perfect. And what does perfect even mean? Because I think there's a value in the life that you live. And when you go through challenges, there's a reason for it. there's a benefit that comes out of it. I'm writing a book right now, and my my counselor, he was like, nobody wants to read a boring autobiography. Like, if you go through life and you're like, I lived and everything was great and everything was perfect, the end, nobody's going to read that, because there are experiences that people are going through and they want that real talk in order to truly be able to move past these issues and really break down some of these things. And let's get real. When we talk about us, people of color, if you're out there, you're a person of color, these generational curses are because we're keeping things a secret. These things that we're passing down from legacy to legacy, the generations to generations, these are not legacies you want. But when we don't talk to one another, when we don't share our experiences or give that shortened version, hey, this is how you get from A to B. I talk about from my end, but honestly, I can talk to you from my perspective of being a child of a step parent, and I can talk to you from my perspective of having children who have step parents, but I can't talk to you 100% about being a step parent. And so there's a difference, there's a uniqueness in that. I can talk to you from my perspective. Have been a stepchild. I have been a mother who has wanted specific things for my children in entering in a relationship. And I had to figure out, how do I really work to putting in that balance where my children still feel valued and prioritized and important, and at the same time where my husband feels valued and cherished and important. Now, I'm gonna tell you, I don't have it perfect. I'm sure my husband will be like rolling his eyes saying she needs work. And that's the joy of it. That's the beauty of it. It is an ever-going process. The goal is to grow. The goal is not perfection. Now, yes, we strive for perfection, but when you put something in every single day to do better, then your children value it. I'm going to look at some of these comments. Sharonita, that's true. Someone who has successfully gone through it. Definitely. I mean, you can take value from all, but when you can find someone that closer aligns with your actual experience, and they're not, I won't say they're not many, finding the right fit for you is important. And especially that right fit of someone who has experienced that. If you are a single parent and you are considering a relationship and how that will affect your children, or how you actually make it into being successful, there are important things that you should really go over before you take that step. Stephen says, that's so true. There is no guide to parenting, and different kids require different parenting skills. Oh my goodness, Stephen, preach it. Period. I have 3 children. And when I had my oldest, my daughter, I was like, okay, this is a great personality. This is what it is. This is who she is. Okay, cool. I had my son, and he was the complete opposite. Now, if you're a parent of multiples, you're like, yeah, I totally get that. My kids are nothing alike. Well, I was like, if I have 2 kids and they're complete opposites, as I have more children, they're going to fit in one of the categories. Well, lo and behold, if you didn't know, let me break the myth for you. There can be several different opposites, because my 3rd child is the opposite of them. Now, she has similarities, but totally opposite. And so the way I parent each of them, the way my husband parents each of them, has to be different. And so that involvement and those interactions are very different. Yes, Sharonita said, yes, lots of secrets for sure. And that people keeping those secrets are really what they mess you up, because we don't talk about this. I'm going to tell you, like, I'm sure I make my husband curse. I am sure I make him angry. And we've had those conversations. Like we've had very real and raw conversations where I was like, I don't know if I was made to be a wife. I know I was made to be a mother. And I hope y'all are okay with this. I'm just being real with you. I got to the point where I said, well, maybe I wasn't made to be a wife. I know that's not true. I know I can make a good wife. But there are things that we must put inside our mindset. There are shifts that we must take. There are efforts that we must do. The same way we work at being a good parent, the same way we work at doing well in school or at work, we have to do the same thing for our relationships. And I know y'all are like, well, Tonya, you're a parent coach. What does this have to do with anything? I realized I have to do better with teaching my children the lesson. I don't want to just teach them what not to do. Hey, this is how you don't have a relationship. No, I want to teach my children, hey, these are ways to have a wonderful relationship. These are ways to move past barriers or blocks that you might have, or gaps or divides that might be present because the circumstances for everyone are different. And so, whatever your circumstances are, it may be different. And yes, while I hope you don't go through what I went through, here's how I did it, and here's how we made it work. Valerie says the secrets are what can kill true connections. And that's very true. Eric, thanks for that. I'm going to show a few more comments. Valerie, an ever-growing process for sure. Daily work. Stephen, more of that to come in our January talk. Yes. So Stephen's going to be one of my guests because we are going to have many more people that are coming on Talks and Tea and sharing these ideas. I mean, I'm so excited because when I talk to the speakers, I'm like, I just want all of you all to come right now so everybody can hear you. But it is great thoughts about these variety. I know I'm not for everyone. I do. I have my own style and I like who I am. Sorry. I told my brother earlier tonight because we were playing cards. I was like, look, I'm 40. This is how it is at this point. It's not going to change. But I just mean that to say, I want to bring people on so that if you can't hear it from me, now I'd love if you can hear it from me and receive it and all of that good stuff. But if you can't hear it from me, the goal is we've got to do better. We've got to build legacies, guys. I am about us doing something different and us creating a difference in our culture and in our society that is going to build these youth that are now youth that will eventually be adults to go out and do things differently than we did, and to really change that perspective of what are these limitations that we're putting on ourselves because of this idea that doing it different is wrong. Sometimes it's just different. Different doesn't have to be wrong. It can just be different. Melissa says, oh my OMG, in tears now here because I went through this and it was tough. And it is tough. And people don't really realize that it is, as Stephen said, it's all work. Relationships are work. And they really are. And taking that approach of not trying to do your relationship how everyone else has done their relationship, because your relationship is going to be different. Your relationship with your children are going to be different. Your relationship with your spouse is going to be different, and how you approach it, it is going to be something that can really develop and really grow, and it can be really great. Now, the key is give it time. As Stephen said, we can't fear these conversations. Give it time is not just sitting and waiting and doing nothing. Oh, well, if I just wait here and twiddle my thumbs, things will change. They won't change. It takes work. And so when you're giving it time, for me, I don't believe in living in misery your entire life. I don't. And it's been a statement I've said. But there comes a time when you have to choose. Okay, on this end, no, I don't want to live in misery. But on the other end, am I willing to do the work and put forth the effort before I just give up and say, oh, I don't want to be miserable? Because a lot of times we give up so soon. Forget misery. We didn't even give it a chance to have true emotions. And hard work is not necessarily misery. Because if the hard work turns out to be you having the abundance, the joy, the life that you want, the family that you want, the relationship and the connections that you want, then is it worth it? I mean, yeah, you might have had a temporary time where things just weren't the way you wanted them to be, but can it be worth it? I'll close with this. It's a story I just heard from one of my like-minded sister circle sisters, Vernita, and Dr. Vernita told this story, and it's a true story that she got somewhere. I don't remember, but I'm going to give the gist of it. It was a guy who found gold, and he was digging for gold. And he was digging, and he never found the gold. And eventually he gave up and he left, and he never received that gold. I mean, the gold, he just didn't find it. And so he died a poor man. And someone later came and continued to dig where he was at. And that guy was only 3 feet away from the gold. Now, I may not have the story perfect, but you get the point. As it relates to our relationships and what we're doing, as we are looking to navigate this idea that things are different and everybody is not the same. We're different, not necessarily wrong, but it's different. But when we put in that work and we put in that effort, if we give up too soon, we might be missing that treasure that we have worked so hard to find. So I encourage you, continue the conversation. Continue the conversation here. Continue the conversations at home. If you are in a relationship and you have children, go talk. Go think about how you want to approach the way your relationship is in order for it to grow and get better. Valerie, you're right. These conversations must happen in order for change to happen to the next generation. I'm not encouraging toxic. I'm encouraging doing the work, because everything cannot be chalked up as toxic. Everything cannot be chalked up as, oh, this is just going to be miserable. There are things that we can do. There are efforts we can make. And of course, it would be a disservice to not tell you what I do. And I'd love to be a part of your life. My name is Tonya Nicole. I am a certified family law mediator. I'm a coach, and I'm the Universal Mama Bear. I help parents stop breaking down and start breaking through to next level results, next level relationships, and next level relevance. It's time for us to start breaking down the gaps that are dividing us. It's time now. We are going into a new year in 2021, and we can't stay where we are. If you're out there and you need a coach, contact me. Let's talk. We can talk on the phone for free. Like, just book a call with me and we can talk about where to go. And like I said, I'm not for everyone, but I might be out there. I might be someone that can work with you, or I can recommend you to go to somebody. They're counselors, they're preachers, they're coaches, they're all of these different people out there. The goal is we have to do something different. If 2020 hasn't taught us anything, it has taught us that time is of the essence. Let's stop wasting it. There are only a few days left of 2020. How will you make it different? How are you laying down this legacy and this foundation for your children, for the next generation, even for yourself, to be happier, healthier? We invest in a lot of things. Shoot, I just bought a whole cake because I love cake. And I'm going to go invest in a weight loss, right? Fitness. Investing is one of those things that we do that we don't even think about. Why not invest in that idea of building the life that you want, of building the family that you want, and not taking the long way like I did, but allowing somebody to walk you through the process and just shorten it. My name is Tonya Nicole, and this is Talks and Tea with me, Tonya Nicole. Stay tuned. I'm starting a podcast in January. I have Talks and Tea still going and some special guests. I can't wait to continue to talk to you. Thank you all for staying in touch. Keep the conversation going in the comments. I'll be checking in throughout the week. It's me, Tonya Nicole, and I'll see you later. Peace.